So we'll start by setting our motivation. So we think that the purpose of the course is to reflect on the methods for training in compassion, training in the wish for oneself and all sentient beings without exception to be completely free of suffering and its causes, learning to deepen and extend that attitude toward all sentient beings and in all circumstances. So we set the motivation of trying to identify those methods, to understand them more deeply, and to begin to try to implement them in daily life. For the purpose of mixing the mind with compassion, an incredibly deep level, turning the mind into compassion, letting that suffuse the mind completely. All right, good evening. So my thought for tonight, we in the book, there's chapters 10, 11, and 12 technically remaining. My thought, though, was mainly to use tonight to do some meditation that's in these remaining chapters. So there's essentially 3 remaining meditations. So I thought we would do kind of like a little mini New Year's meditation retreat sort of thing, and do like maybe 3 20-minute meditations on these 3 remaining topics. And then we can circle back toward the end if anyone has read those chapters or if there's anything else that sticks out. But mainly I thought, because we hadn't really done meditation so much, I think we did one, but we haven't done it so much. So that was my thought. So the first meditation that's in chapter 10 is looking at anger and looking at the way that anger manifests in relation to people who are difficult, people who we regard as being hostile to our interests, our desires, even our well-being. So we will try to get into a stable, comfortable, upright position. So we think about keeping our feet flat and our back straight, our torso open, hands in the lap right over left, with the palms upturned and the thumbs gently touching. Our eyes are gently closed or slightly open. I try to maintain an awareness of not slouching or leaning, but we also relax into the position, letting go of any unnecessary rigidity or tension in the body. And try to have a sense of moving the mind inward, away from the external environment, constraining it to the body and mind. Concentrating your awareness in the present by attending closely to the physical sensation of the air moving into and back out of the tip of the nostrils. Noticing quickly when anything other than that one physical sensation arises in the mind, and without judgment or frustration, lifting your awareness up from that distraction and placing it gently but firmly again and again on the breath. And we can bring to mind a time when someone said or did something that seemed to us to be unkind or disrespectful, seemed perhaps mean-spirited. Trying to pick an example that's not too emotionally charged. And then try to think that that action is the result of that person not having tamed or trained their mind sufficiently to where it they were able to prevent that way of speaking or acting in that moment. And we try to recognize that that aspect of the mind that gave rise to that troublesome way of relating is not intrinsic, not inherent to their nature. If we think of the clear, luminous nature of their mind like the sun, then in that moment it was obscured by a storm cloud. And although we prefer warm, sunny days, we don't get angry at the sun for being obscured by a cloud. And we can recognize that we ourselves have a relatively untrained mind. We too lose our temper, say things that are even intentionally meant to wound. And in both cases, the arising of that affliction is the reason. That temporary obscuration of our basic nature. So try to reflect on that memory through that lens. See if that helps to hold that person with a mind of compassion. And if you can genuinely give rise to the wish that they be free of that afflicted state, and just hold your mind in that aspiration, that wish. And then when you're ready, we'll come back together. All right. So we'll just take a little breather. If does anyone have a question from? I don't know if anybody read ahead to the remaining material, or if there was a question from a previous material. No. Anything that would be helpful to talk about?
Dondrub, the image that you used in this meditation of not getting angry at the sun because there's a dark cloud obscuring it is beautiful. It's going to stick in my mind very easily.
I really liked it too.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's directly from the book. I didn't, but no, I thought it was great. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Well, then we can go into the second meditation. So the second meditation is a version of Tonglen, taking and giving. It's a little bit different than the traditional way of. I mean, he doesn't call it technically. He doesn't call it Tonglen, but he does say taking and giving, which is the English translation of Tonglen. But Tonglen typically will have a visualization of like a dark seed and pollution, and that sort of more traditional way is not in here. So this is kind of a unique way of thinking about it, a sort of a variation, which is always nice. So, and just take our seat. And we're encouraged to begin by visualizing maybe a group of sentient beings that seem to be suffering. So we can think of maybe those with a disease, or those threatened by war or extreme poverty. And we can recognize that this person is, or people are experiencing great pain, even though they deeply wish to be free of suffering and want only happiness. We can make the heartfelt request to willingly take on that suffering, to think, may it ripen upon me this instant. And try to stabilize that willingness to turn toward the suffering of others. That willingness to alleviate the suffering of others. And then think very strongly that I will give to these sentient beings without the slightest hesitation or regret whatever virtues I have accumulated over this and beginningless past lives. all my merit, all my good karma, in order to shift their experience. Try to stabilize your willingness to give away all of your stores of positive energy. And now bring to mind something that you yourself are going through, or something difficult that comes up from time to time. That you find difficult, painful. And then think strongly, by my experiencing of this hardship, may it relieve the suffering of all sentient beings. May this be the fruition of my desire to take the suffering of all sentient beings upon myself. And try to really stabilize that intention. And then when you're ready, we'll come back together. Any thoughts or questions?
That was intense for me. Um, when I was going to take on all the suffering of all these sentient beings, I could feel this like hesitancy and a bit of fear in my chest, like I was going to disappear or get eaten up by all of the nasty, sad suffering. And the only way I could stick with it was to just imagine grounding and going up as well into the universe. And a little voice said, uh, what did it say? It said, this is empty. This is all empty too. And there's no lack of, um, there's like no lack of, of connection. It's whatever the mind was afraid of, like getting eaten up by the intensity of it. That was just a cloud. It was a little cloud that came in, but the connection was much, much more potent and strong than the fear. But there was that 2 second, like, whoa. Do you have any thoughts on that, Venerable? Or
Well, I mean, Lama Yeshe says, allow when you're doing this, allow the mind to freak out, and then do it anyway. Just allow yourself to feel that fear, but then just don't stop. Just don't let that. Because the other way of doing it, is to visualize their suffering as like a dark cloud or pollution, and you draw that pollution into a dark seed at your heart, and then that dark seed gets heavier and heavier, and that's considered to be like the self-cherishing mind that's covering your essential goodness, and then in your giving, you're giving that whatever that suffering to the self-cherishing mind, because the self-cherishing mind is what's freaking out. That's what doesn't want the suffering of others, is the wish for comfort, the wish for ease. So you're feeding, this kind of other version of it is a little bit just visualized a little bit differently, where you're feeding the whatever it is to the self-cherishing mind. Then the self-cherishing mind implodes, and then it's replaced with a large golden white orb of light. And then when you're doing the giving, you're sending out rays of that light. So that's the sort of more traditional way, or the more common way of doing it. This way is a little bit more verbal, and that way is a little bit more visual. But yeah, Lama Yeshe says that it's a good sign that we do, because we're taking it seriously if the mind gets disturbed, or we're not like just kind of going through the like we're actually really engaged. And he says that that's great, just feel the fear and continue to don't let it stop you or derail you. But all right. So the third contemplation is on equanimity. It's on recognizing that in order to truly develop limitless love and compassion, we have to equalize the way that we regard friends, enemies, and strangers. We have to deal with this tendency to categorize in this way. So that's what we will contemplate. So again, we'll get comfortable, an upright position. And then we imagine in the space before us that there are 3 people seated and facing us. In front to the right is someone that we know well and have affection for, feel close to. In front to the left is someone that we also know, but someone that triggers feelings of aversion, feelings of dislike, disdain. And then in the middle is someone that maybe we saw today, yesterday, while driving or in the store, but that we didn't speak to, and they didn't do anything particularly memorable, but we just sort of know what they look like. And try to hold these three images in the mind. And we turn our attention to the friend, a close, dear one, on the right. And notice what arises in the mind. Notice if there are feelings of warmth, a willingness to benefit, a feeling of closeness. And try to investigate the origin of these natural and spontaneous responses. Does this person have a history of acting kindly toward us? Saying or doing what we like, what we enjoy, agreeing with us, or those sorts of things what happen more often than not. Try to see if that's true. That we feel benefited and therefore we feel close and affectionate. And then turn toward the stranger in the middle and notice how your mind changes. Is there now a sense of distance? A reduced willingness to act to benefit this person? And again, try to investigate why. Is it true that it's mainly because this person hasn't had the chance to work for our benefit? To say or do kind things to show agreement with our likes and dislikes and principles. And then attend to the difficult person on the left. Notice how the mind changes again. Feeling of separation is stronger. Wanting to move away. And again, investigate why. Is this someone that has acted in ways that we think are against our interests, our desires? Then try to strongly recognize that all three of these sentient beings, just like every other member of the group that they represent, in every moment deeply wishes to be free of even the slightest negativity and to experience only happiness. And that this is also true of oneself. And so just like oneself, all of these sentient beings are the same. No difference between self and other in wanting to be free of suffering and have only happiness. And if you can cause that deep, visceral feeling of equal regard to arise, and just try to hold your mind to it. Recognizing this deep truth beyond the superficial perspective of whether a sentient being has helped or harmed only me. Trying to awaken to this wider, deeper perspective. This much more valid way of seeing. And then when you're ready, we'll come back together. Any thoughts or questions? Well, that was all I had for this evening. Anything else? All right. So then we'll just dedicate. So we think back to our altruistic motivation and think that by practicing these techniques, we've actualized that motivation, which has created positive energy in the mind, and we think of giving that away freely for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thinking may it ripen in whatever way is truly beneficial for sentient beings. May it serve as a cause and condition to eliminate war and conflict, poverty, disease, famines, disasters. May it fully ripen the mind of all sentient beings. May they quickly meet perfect teachers and arise in a state of full enlightenment. May I, too, achieve the state of enlightenment, so I might work for the benefit of sentient beings perfectly. May any obstacles facing the Guru's long life be completely dispelled. And may I and all sentient beings in this moment come under the joyful care and guidance of enlightened beings. May we be guided and protected until we swiftly achieve that state of enlightenment. Thank you.